Yo, what's going on with y'all? It's your boy NeoXO coming back at y'all with a Black Clover video. Today, I'm going to be talking about Black Clover chapter 324. Very interesting chapter. But before we get too deep into the video, make sure to leave a like on the video, comment, and subscribe. Now, getting right into this video, it starts off with Zora and Lucifero. They have a moment where they come into contact with each other. I mean, Zora's pretty much storing up all this magic power into his trap magic, and with one shot, with everything that he's got, he punches Lucifero and they kind of like clash. It's a big clash, honestly, and it kind of pushes Lucifero back a little bit, but it's ultimately not enough to take him down. The most that actually happened from this clash is Lucifero just kind of getting annoyed, but on the other end, it was well worth it. I feel like for Zora to do this, because it did allow Asta and Nero to not die, you know, because if they would have got hit with that, they would have probably died considering the state that they're in, and they used a lot of mana already. Well, Nero did, but Asta, you know, he kind of beaten up at the moment. So after Zora, he did what he had to do. Yami and Nacht come in, and that's really cool because it's like the order of the senpais, you know. Yami's the captain and Zora is like a senpai to Asta because he's been in the squad longer, and it's just cool to see how their squad just all protects each other one after another. So we see Asta, he came in, he tried to protect everybody, then Nero tried to protect Asta, Zora tried to protect Nero and Asta, then Yami and Nacht protect them. So it's just like whenever one goes down, another one takes their place, and they kind of just keep on coming. And that's like a really good thing about the Black Bulls, because it immediately switches over to Nacht and Yami kind of talking about it. You know, they're still catching up. They haven't been in each other's life for a good bit of time, because Nacht was spying in the Spade Kingdom, and Yami's like, yeah, the Black Bulls are pretty interesting. What about you? What do you think? And Nacht's like, yeah, they're pretty interesting. They're pretty great. They're even better than what I thought they would have become. So that's saying a lot, because Nacht is pretty critical. So considering that he even thought that they were going to be less than what they are right now in his wildest predictions. So like the best case scenario, he didn't even think they would be this good. So they surpassed all of Nacht's expectations, and it's pretty cool how Yami knows Nacht really well. It plays a big part in this chapter, because as they begin to fight, they're fighting in absolute unison, if you ask me. I mean, it looks like they've done this 1,000 times, even though Nacht has been away from the squad for so long, and he really was never doing orders from Yami or carrying out a bunch of missions. He mainly had one main mission, and Yami just knows Nacht so well. He's like, you've probably been watching them anyways, and we know from previous chapters that Nacht has always been watching the squad, but there's no way Yami would have known that unless he knows Nacht really well, because Nacht never told Yami that. So that's pretty interesting that Yami knows Nacht so well and trusts him, because after being given a vice captain role, Nacht basically didn't show a huge interest in, you know, pursuing that role. He mainly came across as the kind of guy who was just doing it for freedom, kind of like so he could just go between different countries and do things that he wanted to do, because being in a vice captain role, you get more privileges awarded to you. So that's mainly what he made it seem like whenever he took the role. So Yami knew that it was just kind of like a facade, and Nacht actually would be good at the role. That's why Yami picked him. I doubt Yami would have picked him if he didn't think he could do the role. Moving on, Captain Yami and Vice Captain Nacht actually have a really powerful spell. Like, they're using Mana Zone, and they're using Dark Magic X Shadow Magic. And this right here is basically feeding off of each other's magic. So to me, it's like an infinite magic glitch for real, because the darkness is spreading the shadows, and the shadows are creating more darkness. So they're like feeding directly off of each other. This is a really two good magic attributes to pair up with each other, because they just feed off of each other. Like, they each make each other stronger. So that's really good. So it makes Nacht stronger, and it makes Yami spells stronger. Like, completely in, I guess, like a symbiotic relationship with each other. So that's really good. And they use children's playground, basically spreading the darkness and shadows all around and almost engulfing Lucifero everywhere he looks. Like everywhere Lucifero looks is just darkness and shadows. And they use doppelgangers, like shadow and darkness doppelgangers, to just send barrages at Lucifero. For a second there, it kind of looks like Lucifero is just strictly on the defensive, like he's just trying to hold off these attacks, because Lucifero is just being barraged with dark cloak slashes from Yami. He's being barraged with doppelgangers. It's just, he's just receiving a flurry of attacks, so he's pretty much on the defensive for a good minute, like honestly. And even after seeing all of this, Adramalik still isn't jumping in to help Lucifero. Maybe he's just curious as to why Lucifero is being on the defensive, and we kind of get our answer a little bit later in this chapter. But since I mentioned it, I'll go ahead and say it. Lucifero was not trying at all. So we get a dialogue from Lucifero, and he's like, humans actually have the potential to defeat me. I like these lines right here because he's not being naive and he's not trying to downplay the humans. He's actually, if you look at it, it's actually a form of acknowledgement. He's acknowledging that they actually can defeat him. He's not being arrogant and saying there's no way the humans can defeat me. That's kind of how Dante ended up losing, because Dante was so arrogant that he allowed his pride to get in the way of his victory. Lucifero is not allowing this. He's not allowing his pride to get into the way of his victory. So it's going to be even more difficult to beat Lucifero now that he's going to get serious. So he goes into this monologue and he says, I'll give you that. That's why I'll kill all of you without fail. And not just you. I'm going to kill your parents, your siblings, your friends, your neighbors without remorse. And I shall slaughter every last human. And he says this with dead calm expressions. He's just dead calm. So it's interesting, because at first he was getting mad, but at this point he's like, okay, being mad is not the time for this, because I actually have to get serious. So he's starting to focus. The reason he's calming down is because he's beginning to focus. And Yami actually, I like this expression from Yami. I mean, he's basically like, you're getting serious now? You gotta be kidding me. He's like, whatever, oh well, we just gotta deal with it. Yami just like that, for real. I mean, Yami, one of my favorite characters for sure out of the series. And then we get a couple panels with Nero and Asta. She's basically healing Asta with her sealing magic. People say that the Black Bulls have a lot of healing mages. I don't know. I mean, I don't think that, I wouldn't consider Nero a healing mage. It's just that her sealing magic can seal Asta's wounds. But I could see how people would say that's a healing mage. I don't consider her a full healing mage. Like a full healing mage, you gotta look at it like this. Every character has a set of spells, and some of those spells have different use cases. So Nero having sealing magic, it makes sense that she can seal wounds. Just like Patri. I don't think people would consider Patri a healing mage, but he can use light particles to heal. So I just want to say that I don't think the Black Bulls have too many healing mages or anything like that. Yuno and Asta end up standing back up, and Yami says, this is the final battle, so let's do it. And Lucifero premieres a new form. Now this new form is clean, guys. I really like this form. It looks like it looked like he's getting more serious. It looks way more serious than the other form. His horns actually grew. His horns got bigger. It seems like the devil energy around him is spreading, you know, kind of like how devils have the black aura around them. Libe has it, Zagreus has it, Lucifero has it. It's like a black aura. I like this aura. It's like symbolic of the devils in Black Clover, and it's just spreading across his body. You know, it's not completely engulfing him like it did with Zagreus, but it's spreading a little bit more, because, you know, he had scars all over his body, and now it's slowly transforming into like blackness. So I don't know what the scars were caused from. Like, honestly, I wonder what caused like those scars on Lucifero. We might never get an answer, but the closest thing I feel like it could have been was just the fact that he wasn't complete in his manifestation, and like they're kind of disappearing a little bit because he's becoming more complete with his manifestation, because this is a completely different form. I mean, he has spikes on his shoulders, he has bigger horns, the blackness on his body seems to be spreading a little bit. So this is very interesting, and we're gonna see this is gonna be a very good battle. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and leave it a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe. As always, it's been your boy NeoXO, and I'm out.